With your host, Donnie Miller, connecting our community with information about issues and opportunities.
Good Sunday morning and welcome to Bridges. Welcome to what is our 400th Bridges show. We are so excited to present I think what's going to be some really interesting conversation about some of my favorite interviews over the next few minutes, and I hope you decide to stay with us. Sad news for us, though, is that we've lost a friend here at 13 ABC. We lost Stina Weathers. Stina was a longtime producer of this show. She reminded me often that good journalism requires balance. Donnie, she'd say, your passion for an issue is no substitute for fairness. She was so right. On Sunday, April 27, this woman with the voice of an angel and a life driven by her faith passed away. Today's Bridges show, our 400th, is dedicated to her. We miss you, Stina. Our guests today are friends of Bridges, Larry Sykes. You guys have seen him a lot. In fact, I tease Larry that this really ought to be the Donnie Miller and Larry Sykes show. He's always been so willing to come in and share his wisdom about so many things that are important in this community, and we appreciate him so much for having done that over these years. Also, another dear friend of mine is, what's your name again? Jan Scotland. Jan Scotland is a community activist. He's been with us several times as well. And Jan and I actually go back to Toledo Up Front days. Remember that? Back in the 90s, we were both on a show right here on 13 ABC called Toledo Up Front. Welcome, both of you.
I wasn't born then.
Dream on, buddy. This has been an amazing journey for us here, and we're going to show you, I think, some of the most memorable shows, at least for me, and I'd like to talk to you about them again. First, we're going to show you a clip from an interview that I had about a year and a half ago with the ex-mayor of Detroit, Kwame Kilpatrick, an amazingly complicated, brilliant man. Take a look at this. Okay. About a year ago, probably in August of last year, you had just been released from a 14-month stint in prison for some probation violations. Mm-hmm. You were having an interview with a young man from the New York Times, and he was asking you basically what it was like. You know, what's it like being in the hole, because you spent some of your time in solitary. And I found your response to him really intriguing. I'm going to read it to you a bit. You said, "The hole is just like it is on TV. I could sit in my bed and touch all four walls. Nobody comes by, nobody talks to you. They put your food through a slot. I'm a people guy, so I'm always on teams. And so being alone was an ordeal in and of itself, but it actually helped me. I didn't know how low I could fall until I was sitting in that hole crying like, wow, I'm on a cement floor. This is it." Mm-hmm. Do you remember that moment?
Absolutely.
That exact moment?
Absolutely.
It sounded like you were confronting like everything all at once at that time.
You know, one of the things that I realized in that moment is that I couldn't help myself. My whole life, from the time I can remember 8, 9 years old, I could always talk myself out of something. I could always do something to move myself into a position where it was better for me. But in the hole, surrounded by those concrete walls, that steel toilet, that steel sink, in a room so small, like I said, you could touch all four walls. I could, from sitting on that cement bunk. I was being fed through the slot in the door 3 times a day. I was being walked naked to the shower 3 times a week for a 10-minute shower. I realized when that door slammed one day that there was no way that I could do anything to help myself, that I for once had to completely surrender to the will of God. And it was in that moment that I felt the most depressed, the most saddened. But then after that, the biggest release. It was really a phenomenally amazing experience for me. When you're crying and laughing at the same time. My grandfather used to say, "You're not crazy when you start talking to yourself. You're just crazy when you start
answering yourself." Right.
And so I was doing both. I was talking to myself and answering myself. Yeah. And so, but it was a feeling where for the first time I was alone. I've been on basketball teams and football teams. I've been in politics. I've been around the world. You know, I was by myself. And so for the first time I had to get to know who Kwame was. Outside of being the mayor, outside of being a politician, who was Kwame?
And what conclusions did you come to?
I'm a servant. I don't have to be elected to serve.
Yeah, that's it.
Basically,
That's
at
it.
the very
All right. This interview of all the ones that that we've done on Bridges just absolutely broke my heart at the end of the day. And I think it was because, you know, if you were in the when he walked into the studio that day, I mean, you knew he was in the house. He didn't have to say a word. His presence is so commanding. He is absolutely brilliant. He is, but he's also, don't get it twisted, he's also a bit of a thug. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And I had some issue with that, with the mayor, you know, because I thought that really perpetuated all those stereotypes that folks have about black folks instead of his, you know, really capitalizing on all those positive things. He really interjected a whole lot of that thug life into his being. And so I was just so disappointed about, you know, the loss of who he could have been.
But here again, if I may, I perceive him as being a shell with no substance, intelligent,
How could
but
you
but no integrity.
All right.
Character, but no content, because he had everything. But as you say, thug. It wasn't about him being black, because there are whites and there's Asian and there's Chinese. Do that. When an individual have no integrity and no character, no content, they're doomed to fail. Yeah. And we see it with the owner of the Clippers. He got everything. But
yeah, we're
still.
gonna talk about the owner of the Clippers next week too. But
like, you know, to who much is given, much is expected, and unfortunately, he had been given a lot. I mean, because of his mother and because of position and things of the sort, he had been given a lot, and he squandered it, and he also did not live up to his responsibility to the people who looked up to him, who followed him, who supported him, and everything else. You know, I feel sorry for him to some extent, but I also, you know, look at that and you get a little bit angered at the idea that this is a man that could have done a lot of things because of the gifts that he had, and he did not do it. He chose to go in another direction. It was absolutely senseless. So, you know, I think to a great extent he got what he deserved. It's unfortunately that it had to happen that way, but he is given a lot, and when you're given that much, you know it's like the Lord and talents. You know, you've got those talents, you're supposed to use them.
That's true, but you know, part of me just really feels that he deserves some compassion. I really do think, now see, both of you make those faces, and you know, human beings are really fragile beings. And he was, how old was he when he first elected? He was in his 30s or something when he was first elected.
There he is. He was the mayor once. He messed it up, ran again, and he came, oh God, Jesus. He went to the ministers and he did it again. So I can't feel sorry for you. Old song said, Harry Hippie lies asleep by the side. I want to help him, but he won't help himself. He had it. He could have been everything, but that is not where
was
he
that
wanted.
A song?
Harry, well, it's
Before our time.
How old are you really?
let me shut
How old
up.
are you really?
With that.
What is that, Harry Hippie? Is that what that is? Write that down, Dan.
But not only that, he tried to destroy the lives of other people. Yeah. Seriously destroy the lives of other people. Put people in harm's way. You can't really have a lot of sympathy when somebody not only is deceptive, but he tries to destroy and succeeded in destroying other people. I don't have a lot of sympathy for that.
I know, and I hear that kind of conversation all the time, but I guess just sitting at this table with him, I couldn't always get the sense of whether he was telling me the truth or whether he was playing me. Now I have to tell you that for real. But you know, just that whole notion of this man lying on the cement prison floor, you know, crying and saying, you know, what have I done? How that sort of recognition that he had really messed things up big time.
Martin Luther King laid on the prison floor.
And then was he?
Well, that's not a fair comparison.
Was he upset? Was he upset because of that he didn't get away with it, or was he upset? Was he really repentant? And I don't know that he is. And he has a hell of a personality, and people like that can be dangerous. We've seen examples of that throughout history. The charisma. You know, Hitler had charisma. You know, people like that can just draw you in.
What
But
was the
do they-
impact, though, Yan, on this of this man on the community of Black folks? I mean, he really was for a very long time, or at least initially, he was up there. He was, you know, an icon in that city, and the whole country knew him. Now, I admit to being a little concerned in his very first interview when he had the 2-carat diamond ring in his ear and the, you know, the.
But what is his legacy? I mean,
pimp suit.
when you say that, charismatic, you know, he gathered a lot of folks together, he got elected. What is his legacy? What can you really point to lasting in his tenure as mayor of Detroit? I mean, the thing I have a problem with sometimes, we get hung up in emotion, our heart, you know, versus our head, and we love these people because they speak well, they talk well, they're charismatic,
Right.
and everything else. But then when you look at their administrations, and you look at the state of Detroit as it is now and has been for a while, what did they actually accomplish?
Well, and I would agree with that, but what is the impact on our community when this sort of thing happens?
We can't just put him as the one that impact our entire community, because it transcends across all communities. And we always want to say, well, you know, he's an African American, he did this. But you look at the great con artists. Look at the ones that through history has done the same thing, and they never want to say, what did he do to our community? The guy in New York just, what was his name, just bilked all the people out of $1 million and billions of dollars.
Oh, Madoff?
Madoff.
Bernie Madoff?
Nobody said, look, what he did to our community.
But the struggles are different. I mean, the struggles are different. You know, we don't often get somebody with this kind of charisma. I mean, we have President Obama, clearly, and I don't mean to make a comparison between the two, except in the fact that they're both really, really bright people. They're both really charismatic
Booker.
people.
Cory Booker.
Okay,
He's a governor.
out
I
in
mean,
New York, in New Jersey.
We only recognize or get to recognize the one that goes south.
Okay.
This guy had it all. As you say, charismatic. I mean, he was an athlete. He had good education. His mother was a congresswoman. His father was. I mean, he had everything.
He did.
But integrity.
Yeah, he did. Okay, I'm
The
gonna.
impact- What's the impact? The impact was nothing. I mean, he didn't do anything. I mean,
see,
he
I
could
think
have done a lot with everything that he had. Power, charisma.
See, I think the impact was a lot, Yan. I think that people negative. And I think that the people, because of him, Black folks lost an interest in politics that they'd had before. I think that they stopped voting. I think that, you know, the despair up in that area was worse. I think the city, I mean, all of that, and it's laid on the shoulders of this man. And hold that thought. I'm going to take us to a break because we need to do that. But we'll be right back in just a moment.